Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Michelle Holling-Brooks here from Unbridled Change, and you're listening to Soulful Practices podcast. More beings are awakening to the call of their hearts and soul to live a life that is in alignment with their true self, launching themselves on a spiritual wellness journey for evolving their systems from being subconsciously survival-led to being consciously soul-led with all aspects of their lives, with like true holistic health and wellness and being. That's the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. And yes, we want to be in alignment too within our careers, our financial life, social life, and family life, and in recreation too. While the spiritual journey of becoming aligned with our true self throughout all facets of our life is absolutely amazing, it can also feel overwhelming, lonely, isolated, and leaving us not really know where to go next on our path of awakening. This podcast is dedicated to helping you along that journey. I've been on my spiritual and wellness journey for over 25 years now and been doing this full-time as a soul companion, guide, and coach with my clients since I started Unbridled Change in 2008. And one of the main questions I'm always consistently asked is, hey, Michelle, what type of spiritual or healing and wellness practices will best support me on my journey of aligning to my true self? This podcast is the answer to that. Each week, I will share with you a new episode that brings you into the behind the scenes of my own personal soulful healing practices, and I invite you to join me in them. Each week, I'm going to be sharing with you a new soulful practice that is based off of what I like to call different pocket teachers. These are short mindful quotes, a spiritual key concept or healing concept, or a short text from a spiritual and growth teacher and wisdom teaching. And they are designed to help serve as a guide for us, a companion to us throughout that week, to help you courageously connect with the soul-led choices that will best help serve you in making the choices that will bring you into more balance so that you can live, love, and lead your authentic life. Truly going from having that desire, the intention to have a soul-led life, to embodying and unbridling your beautiful soul-led life. Again, I'm your host, Michelle Holling-Brooks, and I'm so glad you found us. Let's dive into the soulful practices for this week.
Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to episode 12 of Soulful Practices. And in this episode, we are working with part two of a beautiful quote that comes from one of my favorite all-time books, The Book of Joy. And this quote comes from the late Desmond Tutu, who was speaking and answering some questions, and they were having a conversation in this book about what are some of the benefits that joy brings to our lives, like from a nervous system point of view, from a choice point of view, from just an overall well-being and happiness point of view. When we discover this frequency that is joy and we start to embrace it and allow it to be in our life, what does that give to us? What are the benefits? And Desmond Tutu puts his hand up and he says, I'm sorry to say something here. Discovering joy, I'm sorry to say, does not save us from the inevitability of hardships and heartbreak. He says, in fact, we may cry more easily, but we're going to laugh more easily too. And perhaps we are just more alive. That's the first part of the quote that we covered in episode 11. And so in that quote, the teachings that were for the first part of that quote really explored the hidden and not so hidden extra expectations that we all have a tendency, right? It's human nature to try to put on what we believe will happen as we say yes to joy, as we say yes to working more with our heart and our soul, as we take on that beautiful spiritual journey or healing journey of when I feel connected to my heart and my soul, when I can hear my guidance, I can follow my guidance, I can take leaps of faith to be in courageous movement with what really is me, instead of maybe the protective parts of me or the fearful parts of me coming in there and actually having more authority over me than who I truly want to be, right? When we can allow ourselves to discover these beautiful graces of our soul, we actually have the ability to make more choice, right? And we all put on there, then that means somehow, some way, we do believe that's going to somehow poof take away the hardships and the heartbreak that might be in life. Other people disappointing us, ourselves disappointing ourselves, the heartbreak that happens when something has come to a close, right? Whether that's through a physical death, or maybe that's through the metaphoric death, right? The closing of one chapter of our life and opening to another, right? Like, these are things that we believe somewhere, somehow, in a hidden and not so hidden way, that when we connect with joy, poof, all of a sudden that's going to go away, and there's going to be nothing but bliss, nothing but ease, nothing but grace. And all of the hardships and heartbreaks are going to be things of our past, because one, we won't get bogged down by that stuff. We won't feel those lower level emotions. We're only going to be up here in our higher level emotions. We're not going to get caught off guard by the universe, because we're going to be following our guidance and therefore have heads up. And we'll never feel like the rug get pulls out from underneath us again. And oh man, is it a hard moment, a true dark night of the soul. I'm not putting this lightly, but this is a short podcast, so I can't go into all of the teachings of what happens when that illusion comes down. And Desmond Tutu is trying to help us meet that illusion square on and say, hey, if you can accept this right here, right now, I'm going to save you tons of suffering, right? If you can accept that finding joy does not, I'm sorry to say, alleviate us from the inevitable hardship and heartbreak that are a part of life. In fact, you're going to feel life more. When I start to feel safe to connect to the joy that is around us and within us, that means I'm all in. That means I'm open with my heart. So I am going to feel the suffering of another, the hurt parts of myself, the sad parts of myself. I'm going to feel those. And so I'm going to cry a little easier. And I'm also going to laugh a little easier. We can start to have this yes and, where I can be in a state of honoring the suffering that is present, and I can also honor the joy, the laughter, the love that is present too. So now I'm not stuck in one or the other, right? And so that was part one. It's like, can we look at the conditions in which we really are saying, hey, I'm only willing to connect into life. I'm only willing to feel some joy if these parameters are met. I don't want to feel disappointed. I don't want to feel disillusioned. I don't want somebody around me to show up in a way that I don't like, And when we do that, how then are we separating ourselves from actually being present with that which we are engaging with? And so that was the first practice that goes with this quote, because in fact, once we agree to connect with joy, we're agreeing to be more alive. We're agreeing to be interconnected with our life and saying, hey, I want to move into it. But there's a little wrinkle. How do we move into it with that knowledge that hardship and heartbreak is still going to be a part of it? And so that's where we come into the second part of this quote. This is where Desmond Tutu is inviting us to discover, to explore, and to create for ourselves the pathways in which, yet, as we discover more joy, we can face suffering in a way that ennobles us rather than embitters us. We can have hardship without becoming hard, and we can have heartbreak without becoming broken. Okay, sir. Let's break this down a little bit more, right? Let's really lean into this, because parts of ourselves just don't want to feel any more hardship. They don't want to feel any more heartbreak, right? They really want to believe and hold on to this idea, the myth that we took on in part 11, that when I step on my spiritual journey, when I agree to heal those wounded, old, traumatic parts of me that are just kind of bleeding out still. When I agree to do that, I really don't want to add more to that. I just want it to be done. The pain, the suffering, I just saw the image of the dumpster fire that I believed was my life. I really do want that to be my history and not my present, and definitely not my future, right? And so once again, he's asking us to meet life on life's terms. Yet as we discover joy, we can face suffering. So, what is suffering? Suffering is the inevitability of struggle, the inevitability of parts of ourselves taking things personally, parts of ourselves, getting very attached to something and loving it being there and want to laminate it and put it on the wall and have it always be there. We don't want to experience our life without that, right? Parts of us feeling extremely called to follow a dream, to create something, and then yet meeting obstacles on that road that we felt called to be on and to walk with. And it's very natural that when we feel that and we feel that the gifts have been given, the things that bring us joy and happiness, when there's something messing with that, right, that's outside of our control, or it feels like it's happening to us, right? It's very easy to get lost in struggle and resentments and shame and feeling that the actions of either myself or others are causing harm to me, right? Physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, right? And it's very easy to put ourselves in a suffering is happening to us, right? Instead of saying that suffering is just there. There's the gritty part of Earth School, right? This is just a part of us. So the next question he invites us into is this idea that there are two options. When that suffering is there, we have two options, my friends. We can either be ennobled with it, or we can become embittered with it. And one is the wisdom path and one is the woe path, right? So the wisdom path, what's on that path? The path that we all say, of course we want to take this one, but then we're going to check into it a little bit about why it's hard, right? The wisdom path says, hey, I am willing to accept the truth that Desmond Tutu is bringing to us, that the choice of how I want to meet that moment and that suffering is really up to me. Do I want to just survive it, or do I want to find strengths and grow and expand myself and feel more comfortable and more open-hearted and aligned with myself in that process? Or do I want to pick the woe path? And the woe path embitters me, right? It causes me to fall into doubling down on shadow victim roles, right? And inevitably, when I do that, that means that this world is happening to me because it's trying to either intentionally harm me. I'm intentionally trying to harm myself. Somehow, some way, the target has been placed on me, and everything that's happening in my world is trying to crush me, right? And I just need to just try to survive it. And the difference between ennobled and embittered is really this concept of the difference between surrender and the difference of submission. So in American Sign Language, there is the sign for surrender is up. Like I'm passing this up to the heaven. I'm giving this, whatever I'm holding, and I'm handing it up. The sign for submission is hand over hand and pushing down. I'm pushing something down. I'm making it get on its knees. I'm making it go even further, right? I'm just pushing down. So surrender, I'm letting go. My burdens are being passed. Submission is I'm pushing. So submission, there is no connection when we're in submission. When we're embittered and we're submitting, we are moving into action, but not from choice. The quality of the movement that is happening is one of being dragged and forced and coerced into it. And we're not seeking support in that. We're not seeking what options will best serve me. We are not able to, usually when we feel submitted, we're not able to see the opportunities that are available to us. We have blinders on, we're head down, we're just looking at our toes being forced to move forward, and we don't really want to move it, right? So submission is rooted in oppression, it's rooted in disempowerment, and it's rooted in non-consent. So I'm not truly connecting into my life. I'm not even actually making choices in my life. I'm defaulting down to the fated version of my life. And therefore, my life is happening to me because I've abdicated the choices that can be made, right? Surrender is very different. Surrender is a choice that says, whew, I acknowledge that yes, I don't have to be all yippity doo-dah and gumdrops and roses and woohoo, I get to meet this challenge of my life. I get to meet this hardship. I get to meet this heartbreak, right? I get to meet this part of my life that I really would rather not have there. And let's go, zippity doo-dah, right? Like, no, you don't have to do that because that's not real. It's putting that hand over the heart and saying, wow, this is really hard. and this is sad. I would prefer, my personal person would prefer not to be in this current situation, whatever that is. I don't really want to have to make choices moving forward. There's a part of me that would be perfectly content to sit down and not move. There's a part of me that would be perfectly content to say, see ya, I'm out of here, and maybe come back in 20 years. You know what I mean? I acknowledge that. And then I exhale. I let it go. I pass it off and say, you know what? All these choices are not something that I can make. I should not try to manipulate this and control what is happening. I am only in control of my peace. And that piece, I get to choose how the quality is that I'm going to meet that choice. Do I want to come at it from a place of saying, okay, now that I've acknowledged that parts of me really don't want to be here, I am here, and I'm choosing to move my foot forward and step into that space and say, okay, I'm releasing all the burdens that are not mine to carry, the what ifs, the what's going to happen in the future, what is the ending, what is this, what is that, all that stuff. I'm letting that go. And I'm willing to say, I will hold the part that is mine to hold. I will take responsibility and sovereignty for that piece. And I would like to try to answer that piece, which is much kindness, compassion, and balance that I can. Even if that's looking backwards to do some healing work and tending to pieces of me so that I can be present. Even if it's looking forward and calling back those protective pieces that are trying to prevent future pain or suffering to come forward or harm, right? To come back into the present time. So our rational mind really struggles with surrender. It really can't understand it because it feels irrational. It says, no, you should just white knuckle it, right? Like what I talked about in episode 11. And it does want us to put ourselves into an either or statement. Either everything that's happening to us is heartbreak and hardship, and therefore we just have to submit to all the sadness and all time being a victim in everything we do and just looking, and that becomes our perspective. Or it says you're going to have to say it's joy, and then therefore you have to be all the time no worries, all the time happiness, not let anything bother you, always be in abundance. It doesn't let us say the truth, which is it's a yes and. So therefore, if we feel like we're in a hardship and there's a moment of beautiful happiness that comes in, a friend comes in and says, wow, I know you're really struggling right now, Michelle, and I thought of you. I saw this like really cute, silly, like bobblehead, and I just knew you wanted it for your collection. And I could feel touched by that. I would blow past that because my mind would say, no, you're in hardship. So I would have to be like, oh, thank you. Like I'd have to put this huge story on it and not allow that joy, that connection, that thoughtfulness. I couldn't be able to receive it and let it give me the medicine of love and compassion and enjoyment and laughter that would help bolster me, help give me the buoyancy within my system that I need to meet that moment, right? It would totally cut me off from that and say, no, you're in hardship and heartbreak. So therefore, even though that nice, beautiful thing that you want to laugh with and be in connection with is here, you have to like step out of it because we're only over here. It won't let me do both, right? Only the heart and the soul could do that. Vice versa, if it says, oh, I'm only in joy, when I'm having a moment where a part of me is really struggling and it needs me to tend to it, it needs me to come alongside it and say, wow, I really feel that pain that's happening within you right now. How can we tend to that? What do you need right now? Do you need a little break right now? Do you need a breath right now? What would best serve you right now to help you tend to that pain? It would tell me I can't slow down and do that because I'm just in joy. So I have to tell that part, no worries, buck it up, buttercup, we got this, and I would just do the toxic positivity thing over top of that part of me. Either which one of these things, whoops, sorry about that, is a problem, right? It doesn't allow me to have the complexity that is my experience, which is we are way more than one thing. And so our heart and our soul is the only part of us that can do that. It's the only part of us that can work with yes ands. So let me give you an example, like a real life example of this, so that you understand that I'm not just like talking about theory here. There is a way to do this. So the past couple months for me have been just full of all these different levels that we're talking about here, right? Like I had just finished the developmental edits on my second book, and it's now at the point where I am in this, like the publishing stage of it. And that was like so much joy and excitement and working with that. I had launched, this beautiful new offering of Soulful Practices, and I love how it's going and hearing the feedback of how it's helpful and of service out in the world and being in that. And so that has been just fun and exciting for me to work with this and be in that creative juices of bringing a new offering forward and giving birth to it all the way to where, hello, it's here. I've also been able to just really enjoy, the stages that my daughters are at. One just finished up her lower school education piece, and she's in that beautiful space in between, like fifth grade and sixth grade, and still getting to have that last summer of kind of that innocence and that joy. And so being in that place with her, watching my other daughter begin to like talk about like colleges that she wants to go to, and to be in that, and just to be in this really beautiful creative moment of like opening and expansion, right? And so there's that energy that's just happening and is gorgeous. And I've also been surrounded with the theme of, trigger warning here, death and illness and chronic illness and the weight that has on us, right? And so my May started off with one of the beautiful horses here at Unbridled Change, and we have an aging herd, right? So Unbridled Change is 16 years old now. It's amazing. In October it'll be full 16, so I guess we're 15 and a half, right? And so the horses that came in as 12-year-olds 15-year-olds, they're now older, right? And it's starting to be there. So even though I'm doing all the beautiful holistic care that I can for them and setting them up and trying to help them have as much vitality as they can, the reality is they're also aging, right? And so I had one of our old guys come in at the beginning of May with an acute impact colic. And because of his age and some other complications that he has, he wasn't a candidate for surgery. And so it was just really like, okay, either we're going to be able to clear this on the farm and it's going to be what is in his cards of his life path or not. Luckily, we were able to hold that space while he did what he needed to do, and he cleared that impaction colic. However, it became very clear very quickly that he was entering the final stages of his life. And I really struggled with that. I wanted to be like, nope, we passed this impact colic. I was putting it in a we form. I'm like, we did this. And why was I doing that? Because I wanted for my vision of Peppy to go back into play. I wanted him to just go back into the herd, go back in the rhythm of our life as a beautiful herd and, family down there could just go back to what it originally was, happy-go-lucky, ah, girl and be in this space. And he came alongside me and he's like, yeah, Michelle, that's not what's happening. You need to separate this we, and you need to realize this is my life, right? You need to realize that I am in my rhythms, and my rhythm says my contract with the mini herd, because we have our herd separated into a couple different little ones. And the mini herd that he was a part of, his contract with that herd was done. And he wanted to just be in a solo paddock and horsey hospice with himself as he entered into the final stages of his life. And so then I caught myself trying to be like, okay, well, let's plan this. Let's like look at this. Or what do you want? Euthanasia? Do you want this? Do you want? And he's like, whoa, sister, slow your roll. I'm not there. I'm in each day of my life. I'm just saying this is now a new phase, a new stage, and I need you to adjust. I need you to realize that some days I'm going to eat, some days I'm not. My body is probably going to lose muscle tone and weight and do the things that bodies do when they're slowing down. And I want you to meet me. I want you to be present with me. And I want you to, yes, be a good steward, but I also want you to not be all over the place with trying to figure it out and stop it all and bring it back online, because this is what's happening. And so he really invited me into, how do I want to meet him in that moment? And he really challenged also within me also that he is still in his best life. And I realized that I was creating a story of pity, like, oh, and he's like, whoa, don't put that pity on top of me. Don't bring that to me, because I'm actually in a beautiful stage of my life. And as a part of my training, I have training as a death doula. So it was really interesting for me to see that these beautiful natural parts of me were coming forward, that were trying to barter with him, that were trying to be in a dialogue of a negotiation with him and with myself. And luckily, because I have the death doula stuff on board, I was able to quickly meet it and quickly pull myself back and say, okay, how can I best meet him and the parts of me that really would rather make Peppy immortal, right? Would rather make my whole entire herd immortal, my life, everybody that I love, everything that I create and bring forward and step into connection with. Of course, I want it to last forever, just as it is in that heyday. But that's not the rhythms of the universe, right? That's not what this quote is inviting us to say. It's going to be, no, there's going to be hardships in here, and there's going to be heartbreak in here. And so how do we want to work with that? And what wants to be a part of that? And so I realized that the parts of me that really wanted to write this story and put it on top of him, or come up with a plan of, you're going to be in horsey hospice for this many things, and then when this happens, we're going to make this choice, and like come up with this whole. And Peppy was like, stop, do not pass go, come back, realize I'm living my best life. Yes, tend to me. Yes, give me the best holistic care that you can give me. And also bring me you. Bring me your heart and your presence. Sit with me under this tree and feel the breeze, right? And just breathe. Don't be trying to figure anything out. Don't be trying to think about anything else. Just be with me. Laugh at me when I come out of my feed bucket with like grain all over me, and I try to wipe it on your side of your shirt. Be with me in the beautiful moments, and also be with me when I have that moment and I look at you and I say, yeah, I really don't want to finish that food, Michelle. Can you be with me in each one of those, right? And can you challenge your idea of what you, even though it's a pretty big idea and you've got a pretty big bandwidth for working with the stages of life, can you challenge that even more and bring it even into more open-heartedness of what really living and dying can be and can look like? Can you sit with the fan and me and have a nap together, right? Can you smile at me as I'm nibbling on grass and dropping it out of the sides of my mouth? Can you see where I am in joy, right? And it's very interesting because he wants to bring this teaching to not only to me, but to our clients and then to you. He was very adamant about, please bring this in right now because this is part of it. And the quality of which I could show up for him does impact him, right? He wants me to be able to meet him in that space. Right. And so he has loved working with all humans. He's willing to to hang out with all of us, not so much the other horses. He's like, okay, that part of me, of being the leader and the herd is done. And can we bring that in to allowing that to be present? Right. And so he's been bringing this conversation forward in client sessions and now here, also in the Connecting with Joy membership community, of just really allowing us to meet that heartbreak, because we all have a version of this within our life, whether it's with a physical being or whether it's a job or a career or a house or a place that we lived, right? Everything has its beginning and its middle and its end. And the question is, how do we want to meet that, right? So in the midst of all this beautiful expansion over here, this was happening with Peppy. And then also in the midst of that, I've had acute illnesses kind of pop up. Like one of the other horses got bit by a copperhead, and that was a whole thing. Our beautiful family companion Biscuit, he has a chronic condition and it's been flaring. And so each one of these things is there that I could have easily said, wow, this is too much. I can do one, animal being in my world having a moment, but when we start putting 4 and 5, that's a lot. And oh, by the way, keep the business going. And oh, by the way, keep the family going. And oh, by the way, try to have your own internal, balance and everything else like that. I could see where really easy it would be for me to say, wow, all this is happening to me. I just want to be in the bliss of completing a book. I just want to be in the bliss of starting to have my daughters entering new stages of their life, right? I just want to be here. I don't want to have to work with all this other stuff. But all this other stuff is the rhythms of life, right? That's the soul level truth that's coming through this beautiful quote of Desmond Tutu, that our life really does have all of it. It has the joy, the laughter, the excitement, the enthusiasm, the newness, right? And it's going to have moments of sadness, moments of confusion, moments of feeling like the rug has been pulled out from underneath us, moments of disillusionment of wow, this is what I really want, but this is not what is happening, right? Those are all going to be there. And these are the rhythms of life. We are interconnected beings. And so as I was experiencing what I wanted to experience, each of these beings is also on their own life path, doing what is coming to them. And I also found another little part of me in the last 2 months that was still holding on to this idea that I was somehow responsible if things showed up with a wrinkle, right? That I was somehow responsible for if Peppy wasn't able to integrate back into the herd, or that a chronic condition was flaring in another horse. It was coming back to me, and I was like, wow, isn't that interesting? That there's a piece of me that's trying to take that responsibility, not take the responsibility that is mine, which is the quality of my space, my internal space, the state of being, the posture that I'm coming from within me. That's what I'm responsible for, right? So I had 2 main choices in these moments, working with Peppy, working with the other members of the herd, or with Biscuit, with my daughters, with the clients that I was holding space for, that were really wrestling with their version of what dying and living should and should not look like. I could come very embittered with all this, or I could become ennobled, and therefore offering that to all the beings that I'm also in connection with in this interconnected web. And so those 2 choices of, do I just become more hardened? Well, this is just what happens. You have animals, quote unquote, or people, they die, they live, they whatever, and I could become very robotic. That's becoming hard. I don't want to become hard, right? Or broken. I don't want to have any animals again. This is too hard. I can't do this, stepping myself out of it. I don't want to have to keep a business and try to have a home for the second book and all these other things. It's too much. I want to go out of it. And so I could have made my world really small, hardened and broken. right? And cut myself off, what would I have cut myself off from? From hearing all of the beautiful choices that could come forward. Peppy saying, hey, lean in with me. Let that go. Surrender that. Trust me that this is my life path. Help me this way. I would miss all of that, right? I wouldn't be able to bring forward any balance. And in that, I would create more suffering. So that's what Desmond Tutu is asking us not to do. Don't create more suffering. Don't add more rapids to an already twisting river of our life, right? It's going to have moments of stillness, moments of lazy river, moments of class 1 and 2 rapids, and moments of raging rapids. But we definitely don't have to add more stuff in there, right? And so can we take that out? And when I get lost, because we all get lost in that protective woe, that anger, the worry, resentments, why is this happening to me? Can we pause ourselves, right? Can we pause ourselves and look around for the grace, the care, the support that is present trying to help us, right? Can we see that if we can have that quality within our heart, then that allows us to open to the joy, the laughter, the support, the ennobling ourselves with what is around us, right? And by doing that, now the footprint, the energetic footprint that I have when I'm in that dance of interconnectedness really has an opportunity to heal, to share each other and to witness each other and to grow, right? Not to be stifled and not to stifle other beings, right? Because my quality of my inside world can potentially restrict and harden others, right? If I'm broken and hardened, that's the energy that I'm bringing into the room. That's the energy of the drum that I am beating. And chances are, if somebody else has something that's close to that, we're going to start to beat this drum together and we're going to create more and more of that vibration. Or if I come into that room and I'm beating a different drum, I'm beating the drum of acceptance. I'm beating the drum of like allowing myself to have the happiness, the sadness, all of that there. So in that acceptance, there is an understanding that we're more than one thing. And I get to choose love and I get to choose kindness and I get to choose how I want to show up for myself. I'm now offering that vibration in the spaces that I come into. I can't make them pick it up because that would be energetically hijacking somebody's system. And that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother thing, but I can offer it. So this is not the savior complex that says, oh, I need to show up strong so the other person can be strong, because that's not true connection. It's me showing up in a way that I feel guided and tending to the parts of me that need support so that when I show up in that space, I'm clean, I'm clear, and I'm available. I'm a healing presence instead of a toxic presence, right? So this, my friends, is both the wrinkle and the solution that is within this quote. The wrinkle, that life is going to happen. It's going to have its stages of creation, enjoyment, and hardship. It's going to have love and heartbreak. It's going to have death and rebirth cycles. And they're going to be mixed and they're going to be all happening at the same time. And it's not just with our own physicality of our beings, it's with our loved ones, it's our family, it's our jobs, it's our career, it's our homes, it's our countries, it's the whole 9 yards of how they interweave and interconnect, right? And as we allow ourselves to experience more joy, we're going to be more present with those different rhythms. And as we gain more and more comfort with how we meet those rhythms and our expectations, and we allow ourselves to quickly acknowledge the parts of us that have the different reads, and then surrender them and open up to, okay, what else is here? How can I bring the best healing and balance forward with whatever it is we're facing? That is the magic, right? That is where we get to open up to the support within this quote. That yet, as we discover joy, joy, meaning the inner posture of presence, to be willing to connect, willing to be open to the guidance, willing to hear the whispers of our heart and our soul of how we can best each meet moment, moment to moment, with an open and loving heart, we can face the suffering in a way that ennobles rather than embitters, meaning that we can release that protective story, of feeling personally attacked or targeted or abandoned by ourselves or others, by the divine and the universe, right? That instead we can seek the grace that is present in and around us. And if we start to get lost in that protective story or fears, we have a way to pull ourselves back, right? We have a way to be with ourselves that says, hey, stop, just like beautiful Peppy did for me. Hey, Michelle, stop. You're running with protective worry. You're trying to project into the future. I need you to come back. I need you to be right here with me right now in this day, because what I need tomorrow, I don't know what I need tomorrow. I'll know that when I'm there. I'm here right now, and this is what I need, and this is what I want, and what do you need and want to be with me in this moment? All those questions I would have missed, all those answers, all those opportunities to find that subtle little part of me that I was like, whoa, I really was writing the story there. Okay. Like, okay, Michelle, of course you were writing that story. Why? Because I love Peppy. I love the rhythm that he brings in his presence to our barn and to our family and to our clients. And so of course I want him to be there for forever, right? And so I could find that part of me and then move into, okay, and you're here right now. If I pull back, trying to protect my heart from the loss that I'm going to feel when I walk in that one day and he's going to look at me that way and I'm going to be like, okay, if I try to pull back now to create separation, I'm going to lose all the days in between, right? And I don't want to get lost in that protective fear. So when I surrender, when I release my fears and my disappointments, that's when I can see. That's when I can hear. That's when I can pick a choice that is best for me to offer to both myself and to others in that moment, right? To me, that is joy. When I feel confident in myself to resource myself inside and outside, then I can surf with life's ups and downs. That's the beautiful moment. So when he says, hey, linger with me and just breathe with me, feel the breeze, I can actually do that and connect to the smile that's coming from his heart and my heart, right? When I walked into the house, instead of worrying about, oh, what is Biscuit's, long-term prognosis and all this other stuff, it's like, no, I get to walk into the house, smile when I see my daughter sitting down with him on the floor, reading her summer reading book to him, and I can sit down right there next to her and just enjoy that moment, having a place for the tender part of me that's a little worried about, how will my daughters work with this when they get there? How will I work with this? What will my house feel like to walk through that door without him? I could have a place for that, but I also can have a place that lets me be with my daughter and with him in that moment. Just kind of chokes me up a little bit. But that's okay, because that's beautiful. I can have this beautiful, tearful part here, and I can have the part that says, and there's love. So, this last part of the quote, we can have hardship without becoming hard. We can have heartbreak without becoming broken. This, beautiful tears that are in my eyes, the little quiver that's in my throat chakra right now can be there. And this choice, my friend, is truly up to us, right? Are we willing to open to our heart and our soul and meet the inevitable heartbreaks that are going to be a part of life? Or are we going to withhold ourselves and separate ourselves in order to keep ourselves safe? Hopefully, we break all that separation up and we choose to move in to be more alive, be more connected, and working with the changing tides that are always within us, around us. For when we can open this door, the blessings that we can then walk with are huge, right? We agree that those ups and downs are going to be there. We agree that the disappointments and the disillusionments are going to be there, and we're not alone. That even in these moments when we feel alone and isolated and like, what is happening? And we want to scream at the universe and shake our fists, right? That in those moments, we can also trust that even when we're in the process of doing that, that beautiful love, that connection, that comfort is there to help us. And if we can trust in that, then we can move past just the protective fears and the worries of the separation governing more of who we truly be. And we can open to partnering with our life not just enduring it and chasing the next dream, hoping it will end our suffering, but also really truly allowing ourselves to be held in the grace that is within and all around us at all times, trying to help us meet whatever is happening with life on life's terms, right? So, the soulful practice for this week to close out season 1, episode 12, is designed to help support us exploring the soul level truth that Desmond Tutu shared in this book of joy, right? Discovering more joy does not, I'm sorry to say, save us from the inevitability of hardship and heartbreak. In fact, we're going to cry more easily, but we're going to laugh more easily too. Perhaps we're just more alive. And yet, as we discover more joy, we can face suffering, the universal experiences that come with being alive. And we're going to have moments of disappointment, disillusionment, and wishing things were different. And we can meet those moments, right? In a way that ennobles us, enlivens and enhances our life, adds to our lives and adds to the lives of others, rather than embittering ourselves and others, disempowering ourselves, victimizing ourselves, dividing ourselves from our life and from the power of our choice and how we want to respond and partner with that life. And in my words, really, truly, if I could sum this quote up of what I really bring from it, and even as I've been working with it over the last 2 weeks with living examples, it's accepting this beautiful thing allows me to, one, liberate myself from the toxic inner expectations and judgments that we have on ourselves and the outer expectations that just stifle us, so that we can be free of those burdens, right? Liberate ourselves from that and really step into enjoying and living our beautiful, messy, courageous lives, right? So take a nice deep breath in and out. And I invite you to join me this week in setting the intention to acknowledge the grace and the guidance and the joy that is present right now in your life. I ask for my attention to be guided to the little ways that I feel a sense of encouragement in the moments of disillusionment, right? That there's some type of a grace of understanding, of an aha, of a way that helps me hold that disillusionment, that it starts to shift things. I ask for my attention to be guided to the sudden inspiration moments that I felt blocked and not able to move through. Then all of a sudden somebody says something. I'm like, oh, that's it. Thank you so much. And off I go and running. Help me realize that is the grace, right? That was there to help support me through that moment of hardship. Help me to bring my attention to a heartfelt moment, even if it's brief and with a stranger or a being that I don't really know, or one of my most favorite cherished beings in the world, that I feel deeply connected to them, even if it's just a smile. And that warms my heart, brings a smile to my face, so I don't feel as isolated, unseen, and not heard, right? That flash of connection helps give me the boost that I need to help pull me back in, that lifeline. I ask for this week to be open to the beautiful flow that my soul is trying to help me see and to step into it, knowing that that flow also comes with moments of weeping and laughter. And so it is. Take a nice deep breath in and out. And just feel into your body around this. Feel into the mental being. Just invite it to realize it does not have to work so hard. Feel into your heart of how all of a sudden it's allowed to have more than one thing happening. The weight, the burden that releases, and feel into your soul. Imagine that there's a beautiful door opening saying, connect in, stay with me, let me be with you no matter what is happening in life, to help you meet the joyful moments and help you weather the ones that you would rather not be in. This is the blessing. This is the intention for the week. And so it is. Amen, amen, amen. All right, I'd love to hear how this practice of both this beautiful quote of part one or part two is going for you, and even how all of season one has come together. The theme that I really wanted to work with this season of this first season is really addressing that fear has more authority over our system in ways we don't even know, and it's trying to help keep us safe. But in that trying to help keep us safe, it's also keeping us small, it's keeping us separated, it's keeping us divided from who we truly be. And so part one of always embodying who we truly are and courageously connecting to our life is first being willing to be in the present moment, two, then taking on some of those fears and those expectations that we have. Up next in season two, we are going to be diving into, once we've got kind of this doorway now open and we're walking deeper into our soul, it's how do we open to these energies of love and compassion for ourselves and for others, right? Now that we have the capacity, we're in this present moment, we've agreed to show up here, and we've let go of some of those expectations that it's going to have to be all one way or the other in here, and we're allowing ourselves to be in the yes ands. Now we can open up to those frequencies of love and compassion. So that's where we're going in season two. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to take a short little break to help prep for it, and we'll be back with new live episodes starting on August 4th, offering you light, love, and joy. This is Michelle, your host of Soulful Practices, and I can't wait to see you on our next one. Bye.
Thank you again for joining me in this episode of Soulful Practices. I'm honored to be a guide for you on your spiritual and wellness journey. Your commitment to becoming soul-led within your life is a gift to both yourself and to every being. Together, as we become more aligned with our true self, we truly do create those ripples of light, of love, of joy that goes out to all beings and empowers us all. So please share what parts of this practice spoke to you. Share with us your ahas or how this practice is working with you throughout the week as you go throughout your daily life. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so that you can stay up to date with the next soulful practice and pocket teacher that wants to help you create that courageous connection to your soul-led life. If you feel called to share this podcast with your friends and family or to write a review, please do so, because it will help increase that beautiful circle of soul-led companions throughout this world. Together, we can create a beautiful, soulful conversation, connections with others, and help each other on our journey. Like Ram Dass says, we are all just walking each other home. Again, this is your host, Michelle Brooks. Until we meet again in the next Soulful Practice episode, offering you a blessing of light, of love, of joy on your journey.